technical difficulties through Zoom
Oh, you're
that I
good.
need to
Joshua
figure out.
Spencer said, "What's up, fellas? Pumped to learn about the book."
Okay, good. What I'm doing now is I'm just gonna pin the book link. Okay, we're good to go, Baylor. Thank you for coming on
Thank you,
and
bro.
chatting with me. Before we get into the book, let's just recap. We just got back from the Bless God Summit from that Ruslan Katie put on.
Yes,
You
sir.
guys were there for a day or day and a half.
Yeah,
Tell
it
me
was
your favorite
crazy.
part. Tell me your favorite part of it.
Ooh, favorite part, bro. Honestly, probably cruising with Jared over at
Yeah. Are
Heliocentric.
you gonna tell them about your adventures or nah?
I think I'll just let the adventures. I think they're gonna be in his YouTube video, so I'll
Okay.
let that reveal our adventures. But yeah, dude, it's good. It's fun being at this evangelical conference and kind of being the black sheep, and our atheist brother Jared also being a black sheep. He's hanging out with us. Trent Horn even came and spent some time with us. I don't know if he felt quite as much of a black sheep as Jared did, but it was a good time, dude. It was great.
Well, now that we know that we're atheists, we can hang out with the atheists and feel right at
Yeah,
home.
it was my first time hanging out with atheists
But
as a fellow atheist
you know what's
following Joe
crazy? I
Heschmeyer.
walked into the conference believing I was an atheist, and then I walked out believing I was a Trinitarian.
Yeah,
So,
that's
like,
true. I think a lot of people left the conference thinking Mormons are Trinitarians, which I agree with.
well, here's the problem. I hope the debate comes out soon. Did you see they removed the link? They
Yeah, I did see that.
it was unlisted and now it's removed. I'm
But
sure
why is it not out? I'm like really confused why it's not out.
maybe they're just gonna do some intro edits. I don't know.
I feel like it's a little suspect. I feel like
You
maybe
no.
I'm tripping, but I feel like that debate maybe didn't go the way they wanted, and they're trying to decide what to do
Well,
with
here's the thing. I don't even think
Gross.
Ruslan knows. I mean, I can't. I never heard him talk about it. I don't really watch him,
Yeah,
but I feel like the common, like even Christian apologetic YouTuber like God Logic
yeah,
doesn't necessarily even know what the Trinity is. I mean, I was just like surprised, like at the answers. Like Jacob was. I mean, just like the impassibility. And
yeah.
Jacob was like, "Well, do you
Impassibility.
believe we can make God suffer?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I'm like,
Whoa.
go, now you've just retreated from all of traditional classical Christianity. And he didn't seem to
Yeah.
see a problem with it.
Which on the one hand, I appreciated because he was very much coming at it as like, what does the Bible say about God? God logic was.
Yep.
And he ended up saying some things that
Yes.
line up nicely with our theology. But yeah, you kind of had Jacob debating for Trinitarianism and God logic debating for Mormonism.
Yeah. Well, isn't that crazy? Because it goes to show you that when you just read the Bible, you actually get what Avery was talking about. It's like, yeah,
Oh
God
yeah.
can suffer.
Yeah, God does have passions. He does care whether or not we obey him.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm sure anyone here watching, if they've watched any of our content here in the LDS space, know about like where the idea of the Trinity came from. And it's trying to mesh hard monotheism. It's not wanting to let go of that for some reason, which is funny because the Bible doesn't even teach that, right? That is a tradition. That is a Jewish tradition. Like, why? Like, I mean, just read the New Testament. What is Christ criticizing the Pharisees and the Sadducees for? For holding on to their misunderstanding of their own scripture and
Yeah.
their traditions. But why are we holding on to this tradition of hard monotheism? And then it's trying to mesh that with, well, Jesus. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, Jesus has a God, and then we have to add all these Greek metaphysics to make it work or to make it palatable anyway to the Greeks.
Now, the new question that's been echoing around my head since the debate is asking, is the Father the Most High God? And if they say yes, which I believe is what Avery said,
Hmm.
um, being like, compared to who? He's more high than who?
Yes.
Because if we're going to strict monotheism and they're one being, then he's the most high by default. There's no one else.
Yeah, by saying most high, you're implicating that there are other
Yeah,
beings.
exactly.
Wow. But I guess they will just say, maybe to be fair to them, like, oh, yeah, there are other gods. Like, we can use the word God, but they're created beings, and he's the only non created, unmoved mover, whatever. And it's like, well, now you're not even
Yeah.
teaching from the Bible.
But they wouldn't, I don't know if they would, if they did say gods, they would say like demons or angels, but they wouldn't
Yes.
put them in the same class.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Okay. Anything else to highlight from the conference before we jump in?
Um, I think that's it for the most part. I think that, yeah, I mean, something I'm fascinated by is Arizona Christian University found that only 17% of
Mm,
Christians can identify the Trinity from a multiple choice list.
that's
And
wild.
I think that was on full display. I think that, you know, the divinity of the three divine persons and the oneness of God, everyone's on the same page there. But when it gets into what really makes the Trinity,
Hmm.
no one knows what's going on. And so I think you'll see it reflected in the comments. I don't really expect lay Christians to be like, oh my gosh, Jacob just dominated that debate. But I think that there are Christians who are familiar with, you know, classical theism and um, divine simplicity that are going to
Hmm.
be a little work concerned following the debate.
My favorite part of the debate was Avery's wife literally screaming in the crowd in the back of the room, "He didn't say that!" Like when Jacob's like, "Hey, I'm just going to quote you from a video where you said that Jesus is regenerated, but in order to be self-existent, you can't be regenerated." And his wife's like, "He didn't say that!"
Yeah.
And we're like, "What is happening?"
Yeah,
I
dude.
was a little disappointed in Ruslan for not having any rules for the debate. I thought that was kind of wild, just kind of a free for all
Yeah.
for that
Yeah.
many people. I think Cameron Bertuzzi, they
Cameron
probably
was
had
great.
about the same, or maybe Cameron with him and Joe Heschmeyer had a little more. And to
Or
be fair,
what?
it was in a church. It was in a Catholic church.
Yeah. But sure, I mean, no, you could tell it wasn't first Cameron's first time moderating. Like
Yeah.
he explained to the audience how things work. Yeah, Ruslan kind of just let it go, which I mean,
And he
I
even
can
jumped in. He even made a comment against
yeah.
Jacob as the moderator. That was
Yeah,
wild.
that's true.
Okay, we got some super chats here, and then we'll go. You want to be the official super chat?
Yeah, yeah, I'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah,
So
watch that. Read those for us, and let's chat about them.
the Bledger or the Blegere says Eastern Orthodoxy is the true church. You'd have a harder time versus them than the Catholics. They have the strongest epistemology.
I actually agree that the Eastern Orthodox Church has more of a claim, especially in the historical grounds. My Catholic friends are going to hate me for saying this, but the original church, if you will, it's not the Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church was not really a thing as far as the central authority until like 400 or 500 years after Jesus Christ, after the apostles. It was actually the model of the Eastern Orthodox. And so my Catholic friends and family don't hate me, but I really do view the Roman Catholic Church splitting off from the Orthodox. So like when the Roman Catholics are like submit to Rome or come home, it's
Yeah.
like actually, you should be the one going back to the original model, which held for the first, 4 or 5 centuries. Now, that being said, I do agree with the Catholics. I think we agree with the Catholics that having a central authority is necessary to prevent schism,
Yeah.
but we just don't see that for centuries. So, anyway, yeah, I
Yeah.
think the Eastern Orthodox have a better case.
Well, and he pointed out epistemology specifically, which I think because there's more mysticism in Eastern
Mm,
Orthodoxy, I think that's fair to say because they're definitely more willing to let the mysteries of the divine have some mystery to them.
yes, I will say one thing that I've noticed with Eastern Orthodox is that they rely very heavily on the contingency argument, the transcendental
Yeah.
argument for God, the tag argument, if you will. And I'm like, that really doesn't solve any problems or it doesn't really have any effect on us because it just posits presuppositions that we can just reject because they're unfounded. There's no basis
Yeah.
for them. It's the idea that all of reality must be grounded in one individual personal being. And
Yeah.
it's like,
It's like,
well,
why?
why? Yeah, and they
Yeah.
just say, well, if you don't agree with that, then you're being
And
inconsistent. It's like not necessarily.
well, not only being you're inconsistent, you're actually now an atheist.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's a
I
better way.
was one more thing about Catholicism that I thought was interesting because I've been thinking about Jacob's debate with Joe Heschmeyer and that question about when did the Catholic Church
Mm,
begin, and
1965.
it's just hilarious. But I thought it was interesting that if you look at the list of popes that the Catholic Church has of like, hey, here's our unbroken chain of popes back to Peter.
Hmm.
The title on the top is Pontifex Maximus,
Mm.
and Peter definitely wasn't the first Pontifex Maximus. The first Pontifex Maximus was Augustus,
Hmm.
Emperor of Rome, 19 BC.
Hmm.
And I just thought it's so like interesting that they have this title for the Roman emperor on the top of the list of popes. Look who it is.
What's up, Cade? Join
We made
us.
it. So, anyways, that's my new hyperfixation on Catholicism. You guys, here you got your mic right here.
Okay,
Uh,
let's do
what's
this
up,
really quick.
fellas?
Let's do this really quick. I apologize. How about you guys do a brief introduction to yourselves? Tell
Hey,
us who you are.
perfect
Tell us
time.
where we can find you. Tell us what you
Yeah, that
do.
was that was the pregame. You want to introduce us?
Yes, my name is Cade. This is Baylor. We are some of those in favor, but our channel is called All Those in Favor. People have been calling Baylor all sorts of rude names. I wouldn't even share them on this channel, but people have been calling me the Mormon Timothy Chalamet. I've heard that going around. So
Okay.
whatever you want to call me though.
Yeah,
And
we're
you
on
and you're
YouTube,
both
we're on
students at
Instagram.
BYU, is that right?
Yeah, we are.
Very cool. And how would you describe your like uh category of channel? You're in the Latter-day Saint apologetic, or someone said you're not apologist, you're autists. Is that right? Is that true?
Yeah, someone did email us that today. I thought that was pretty funny. Um, yeah, what are we? I think we are, I mean, we probably are apologists, even though I feel like it's kind of a cringe title that we all
Mhm.
have to bear.
Yeah.
But I think we're the chillers, we're the bros that maybe it's a little, hopefully not too um like hard to watch or hard to follow. Hopefully we keep the academic jargon understandable and we have some fun. We tell some jokes. So
Hmm. And
yeah, I
you
don't know.
you guys
We'll
are
see.
you guys are Gen Z,
We are Jen.
and you've told me this before, but it really solidified in this trip when we were outside on the balcony or whatever at the table out there, and you were like, it's really weird that like when I was on my mission, I was watching like some of the debates that we were doing. Tell them about that, how that, because you guys have known each other for a long time, right?
Yeah, we've
But
been
tell
friends. We were on
tell
the
them that little mini
same seventh
story.
grade basketball team,
Oh
actually.
shoot. Okay.
Hmm.
But so you,
So
Kay, did you discover like something Jacob and I did? Was it the Apologia debate or something? I can't remember.
yep, it was the Sola Scriptura Apologia debate. I was serving in West Texas, and it was very relevant for me at the time because everyone I was talking to believed in Sola Scriptura, and they knew how to articulate it really well. So that was something that was like a big, big breakthrough for me. But I had started reading everything I could get my hands on as a missionary, and started listening to everything I could as well. And you guys, yours and Jacob's debate somehow fell into my hands, and me and my companion listened to the whole thing through on a P day during like we were eating lunch, just listened to it all the way through, and it was electric. I was like, this is freaking cool, dude.
I'm assuming it was passed around on like a Google Drive or something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Google Drives are
Yeah.
no one even knows. There's no comprehending how
I call it
far and deep those missionary Google
the
Drives
Google
go.
Drive industrial complex of
Yeah.
missions.
It's
I
crazy,
have I have no
untraceable.
doubt it goes deep.
But yeah, and so I was in Indiana and Kate sent me that, and that was really my first time seeing like our faith discussed in like an intellectual approach and kind of opened the door for me, whatever drive that was found in, opened the door for me to find some answers to some other questions I had and kind of got me down this rabbit hole that basically worst decision of my life, not.
And then how long you guys been home? Because you guys were kind of COVID missionaries, so you've been home for 4 or 5 years, maybe 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I've been home for 3 years almost.
Three and a
Because
half,
you guys
maybe a little over
went,
3.5.
you got sent back for COVID and went back out and all that.
Yeah, we
And then
started in 2019, came home for a while, went back out. Cade finished in 2022. I finished in 2023.
okay. And then shortly after, did you guys start the channel, or when did you guys decide, hey, we want to do content creating?
We talked about it for a long time, but it wasn't until January of last year that we posted
Mm.
first post, and just been trying to play catch up ever since then, dude.
Mhm.
It never ends.
We did not think this would work at all.
Yeah,
Well,
we weren't.
you're big on Instagram, bigger on Instagram and on YouTube as well. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, we were up to. We just today we hit 31,000 subscribers on Instagram, kind of a random number, and then I think we're at almost 14 on YouTube, 1,000
Yeah.
subscribers. So
Yeah, it's
you
huge.
know, we're growing. No complaints for a first year.
Cool. Well, for those who are watching, go open a new tab and go to all those in favor and subscribe to them. Okay, let's do some of these super chats and then we'll dive into the book. And then I need to tell Cade something that I just told you earlier, but we'll get to that. Is that okay?
Yeah. Okay, you want me to do these next super chats?
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
All right, next one is from Darth Momo. Shout out Avatar: The Last Airbender. It says, "Is it easy to publish on Amazon? I'm trying to publish a book about my high school conversion story. Should be done soon, and I'm looking at Amazon."
Yeah, it's really easy. It's free. The hardest part about publishing, self-publishing on Amazon is getting and it's not really that difficult, which is saying a lot. The most difficult part is to get the formatting correct,
Hmm.
right? Because there's zero forgiveness when you self-publish on Amazon. They're not going to help you do anything at
Yeah,
all. You have to have it
makes
all
sense.
correct, but you can easily figure that out. And if someone's really serious about it, send me an email and I can maybe give you some pointers. It's great.
Adam Ray asked, "Was that the hardest, most enjoyable, or least enjoyable debate?"
Hardest, most enjoyable, least enjoyable debate.
Is that
Oh,
Hayden's
is
hardest, or is
he?
he just asking for the hardest,
He's just
least enjoyable,
he's
most
asking
enjoyable?
about oh, he could be asking. I think he's asking about the Jacob Hansen God Logic debate.
Oh, all of them?
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed it for the content that Jacob was sharing. Like it's going to be a gold mine for non-Trinitarians to go look at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Adam, sorry if you're asking me personally about debates. Um, yeah, I'd have to think about that. I've probably only done maybe four total, and two of those are like in the last 2 months. Um, the hardest one probably was against Apologia. That was my very first one.
You guys
And
wiped the
I didn't
floor,
really
dude.
know a whole lot. Jacob kind of carried on that one as far as the
Mhm.
content. He did a really good
But
job.
is God omnipotent?
He is omnipotent. We love you, Oscar. We
That
love
was
you.
awesome.
I really do like Oscar. He's been nothing but charitable and
He seems
friendly.
like a dope guy, actually, for sure.
He is. He's super chill. He's really nice. I'm
Okay,
gonna see them because the Easter pageant here in Mesa is gonna start, and they usually come out and try to evangelize to us.
that's
Anyway,
cool.
yeah.
I feel like they should just let God's foreknowledge and predestination take care of it, you know?
I'm excited for Jacob's debate with James White
Well,
here in a month.
they're determined to do that as well. It's not
Yeah,
like
that's
David
true.
really.
I guess they can't
Yeah,
argue.
they're
Okay.
enslaved to God's will. Go ahead.
Preach and Ponder says, "I have a new LDS channel called Preach and Ponder. Any tips for language or methods to invite Christian creators to dialogue with you on YouTube?"
There's a lot of people. You just kind of got to reach out. I would expand onto Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.
Yeah, there's a lot of people willing to dialogue with you. The question is, are they the people you want to dialogue with?
Yeah,
Yeah.
when doing interfaith dialogue, I feel it's best to focus on personal attacks rather than the ideas.
Yeah, ad hominem.
hmm
Yeah.
And
That's
also like fabricate evidence. If something helps your position, just make something up
Make it
that'll
up.
help you to show your point.
Oh, and ChatGPT. Don't
Yeah, no,
forget
yeah,
that.
AI if
yeah.
you need sources. AI,
Yeah.
easy.
Yeah. Just
Super
put
helpful.
their response into AI and then say, hey, how do I own this person? And then just paste whatever AI gives you.
Just say, give me a response to this, but make it super based and awesome
Say,
and rude.
honestly, just say, what would Hayden Carroll say to this?
No, don't.
Okay. Our same Eastern Orthodox homie from earlier says Eastern Orthodoxy doesn't use tag. They rely on the energy essence distinction and don't appeal to absolute divine simplicity.
They don't use the tag argument. Surely
I
that's not true.
Eastern Orthodoxy pretty broadly rejects natural theology, but I have seen a lot of Eastern Orthodox carve out a little exception for the tag. Um, but I don't know what he's meaning by Eastern Orthodox don't use the tag because I've seen him use the tag before. It's like Jay Dyer's favorite
Yeah.
argument is the
That's like his
tag.
number one. And that's what I was referring to. I can't say that I've interacted with a ton of Eastern Orthodox, but their most loud voices online, I think, are using it.
Yeah. There's a big identity crisis with all the ortho bros that have
Why
never.
why are they more rude than
So
most?
the interesting thing is, Hayden, they're not actually growing. The amount of people that are becoming fully fledged members or
Like
catechumens
catechumens.
of the Eastern Orthodox Church isn't growing at all. You just have a growing number of people who say that they're Eastern Orthodox,
Mm,
probably online. And this is my guess. I don't think they attend. I don't think they are
mm,
familiar with the liturgy. I think they just kind of see the crusade edits and they're
yeah,
like, that's me. I am
Yeah.
right.
that guy. I'm King Baldwin.
And also they're like, wait a second, I can not believe in sola scriptura, but then also I don't have to apologize for indulgences. Sign me up.
It's kind of the best way
So,
to do it.
Pick Jaghouse says, you have been cooking. Who is your next debate?
Mm.
Us right now.
Infinite
Thank you very much.
regress. Let's go.
Wait, say that again.
I said us right now. East
Oh,
infinite regress.
oh,
Let's
infinite
go.
regress and divine foreknowledge. Ready to go.
True. I know. We actually do disagree on everything.
I don't have one set up right now, but I am in the works to try to find somebody. I made some posts today or yesterday. I'm trying to find a Calvinist who will defend the idea that they can have an assurance of salvation. And I don't think it's possible because if there's nothing you can do, meaning you can't even accept it of your own free will and choice, and there are people who think they're saved and then they leave, it's like, and then they call that self-deception. My argument simply is, for anyone who wants to debate me on this, if the definition of self-deception is you don't know that you're deceived, then how can any Calvinist know that they're deceived? And the answer is you can't by definition, right?
I think there's also a similar argument to be made that I've been thinking about recently for
Mm,
anyone who accepts like, you know, biblical supremacy and infallibility. And that's like, how do you know that we are not going to find more manuscript evidence that overturns one of a verse in the Bible? Like it could be any verse in the Bible that because we don't have a single original autograph. So like theoretically we could go find like a manuscript for any text, any verse in the entire 66 book canon or 73 book canon, whatever, what have you. And we don't find a certain verse in there. I mean, it's happened with like the woman taken into adultery, and it's
yes.
happening currently in the scholarship with Paul saying that women should be silent in the churches. Like,
Yeah, Paul did not say that.
Yeah.
even though there's no
Paul
manuscript evidence for that one, but
Paul was woke like me.
Let's go. You know what's funny is even the Calvinists, when I ask them about those discrepancies, like how do you reconcile, like is it the ending of Mark? There's a few like major portions in the current
Yeah.
Protestant canon that are just not there in older what do they call them? What's the word? Like the whole, not citation. What's the word? Codex. Is that the word?
yeah, like a
Like
book
yes,
compiled
full of
text.
yes, the compiled text. And I have Calvinists tell me like, yeah, like we'd be okay if that's not scripture. And it's like, doesn't that like totally
Isn't that a
debunk
problem?
your whole idea? And they're like, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's good that they're open to it, at least.
Yeah. Well, the honest ones are the ones who know about it. Those who don't
Yeah.
know about it, they're like, what are you talking about? That's not true. And it's like,
I
well,
know.
I actually do really appreciate though when people are like, "Oh yeah, yeah, I'm down to throw that out," because it
mm,
bothers me when someone's like, "Oh, so you think Jesus is a created being?" And I'm like, "No," and they're like,
You do.
well, it would actually be a lot more fun if
You must.
if you say yes and then I can yell at you. And it's like, dude, no, I
Yeah.
just said no. I don't care. I don't believe that. So just stop.
that happened. I
But
can't
you,
tell you that happened to me several times at the Blessed God conference. People say, well, you believe Jesus is created. I'm like, where did you hear that? Like, where does
Mhm.
that come from? Maybe it comes from like God makers, essentially.
Yeah.
When someone accuses us of being Aryan, because like you believe Jesus is created, I say we literally believe everyone is not created. You couldn't get further away from Aryanism if you tried. Like if you dreamt up the furthest thing away from Aryanism, it would be Mormonism.
I don't know what else to blame it on other than just like people are ignorant and just believe everything they hear. And it
Well,
just
my new thing is just demanding people if they try to box me in. I'm like, okay, well
yeah.
then you believe the Trinity is water, ice, and steam.
Mm,
That's the most common way it's been
right.
described to me. That's what you believe. You have to believe that.
Yeah.
And I think that helps get people's gears moving where they're like,
Or like,
oh,
oh, Maybe I'm being unfair with a
Maybe
double
lay
standard.
members aren't like the best resource for describing complex doctrines. All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Huge $20 super chat from WSL 1911. Thank you. I think Hayden's going to buy us chicken strips with that.
Let's go.
And it says the church struggles between church leaders and historians, often suppressing problematic areas by certain church leaders. Do you think the faith crisis we see could have been minimized had it been addressed up front? I can
Uh,
answer. I mean, I have thoughts on this.
yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
I don't know if the more I've studied church history and the history of church history, if you will, is that you really don't see leaders like suppressing problematic areas as much as historians just find things out that the leaders didn't know about. Like when I was reading, it was the what was the name of the guy we interviewed who wrote the book about the temple?
Jonathan Stapley.
Jonathan Stapley's book about the temple that was published at Oxford. He talks about how with the priesthood restriction, it's like when the apostles were debating about the priesthood restriction, it's like none of them knew that Joseph Smith had given the priesthood to black members of the church and that black members of the church originally had the priesthood. Like none of them knew that because like that history had kind of been forgotten and no one had dug it up yet. And it's just like fascinating to think about like us knowing more about the past than people 60 years prior to us. But that's how it is in a lot of cases. And so I mean, could less people have left the faith had we gotten ahead of some of these claims? Yeah, but that's kind of the nature of the claims is that the history, historians do their thing and they find things out, and then it's hard to predict what they're going to find out.
Also, I would like to know if this guy meant like local leaders or like apostles, because I really don't see like I feel like a lot of people when they make this critique, like, oh, the church hides its history, or it did hide its. You can't make that claim anymore because the Joseph Smith Papers is arguably the most transparent historical project to ever be undertaken. But you make that argument for the past, and I'm like, okay, like what? And they're like the seer stones. Nobody knew about the seer stones, and I have like a list somewhere in my notes of like every reference to the seer stones in the time where they claim it was being hidden by the church. And it's in like church magazines. It's being talked about in
Yeah.
articles. It's in B.H. Roberts' History of the Church, which was probably in every person's building library, just like sitting there. And I'm
Yeah.
like, you could have like, I think a lot of people just want the church to be like to come sit everyone down in Sunday school when they're 9 years old and say, look, we got to talk. Joseph Smith used a seer stone. And it would have been like,
Yeah.
okay, like no, we're talking, we got bigger fish to fry, man. People are sad. People want like, people want some warm fuzzies in Sunday school meeting. They're like, I don't know.
Yeah, and people I know that have left the church are like, we've all seen that picture of Joseph hard at work translating the Book of Mormon, And it's like, yeah, is this an effort of the church to suppress the truth, or did the person that paint this just wasn't a historian? You know, it's like I think sometimes there's simpler explanations.
And like from the beginning, you have the firsthand sources, and then everyone after being like, yeah, seer stones. And another one's like, yeah, it's seers. Yeah, Urim and Thummim. Yeah,
Mm,
looking right at the plates through the spectacles. Like you just have people. So he probably did like a bunch of different things in my view. Like I think he probably sometimes used the interpreters. Either that or all of the eyewitnesses to translation were just using different words for the same
yeah,
thing. Like
there are some Searstone deniers out there.
Mhm.
we don't
Some.
rock with those guys.
Really?
Yeah. I don't see what the big deal is. I have people that seems to be one, and then the location for the Book of Mormon. I have people like so concerned. Like Joseph didn't use seer stones and the Book of Mormon took place at the Great Lakes. I'm like, I really don't care. Like, why is this such a big deal? Like when I did my Alyssa Grenfell response, I used Mesoamerica data and things like that and points to talk about some of the things she was saying was wrong, and some people were pretty upset about that. So
Yeah,
anyway,
people are passionate.
okay, great. Should we go to the next one? Let's do these real
Yeah.
quick, and then we can jump into the book.
So looks like I'm thinking it's Jethro,
Yeah.
Jay Jethro, said Nolam cosmological argument is greater than Kalam cosmological argument.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That's our doctrine, right? The Nalam is that the universe is eternal, and Kalam is that it began to exist.
There we go. And
Good.
Adam Ray, again, thank you, Adam. Is Sola Scriptura the worst creedal doctrine?
Potentially, yes. That tied with nature of God, probably.
And penal substitution. I guess that's not
Yeah.
I guess that's not really creedal, but
Yeah,
it's a
it's good.
well, Sola Scriptura is not really creedal, right?
It's confessional, yeah.
Yeah, you'd find
Yeah.
it in the Westminster Confession.
Yeah.
But
Dude, speaking of Westminster, man, we should I can't believe all that happened here in Salt Lake City.
It happened in Sugar House.
at Westminster
At
University,
Westminster University.
Salt
It's
Lake
crazy.
City.
I was a missionary on Westminster campus in
Oh, really?
2015. Yeah, it's crazy.
Oh, and then our Orthodox friend, the Blesiere, said
Mhm.
debate Alex Soren. You know who
Okay,
that
have
is.
him send me an email.
And Academy of Champions 1 says creedal Christian theology aligns with postmodern gender ideology in terms of the gender of God. They can't defend that God is a he. Your thoughts?
Yeah, really quick, Academy. I just sent your book in the mail today,
Hey,
so expect that.
Let's
Uh,
go.
that's
you
cool.
should be getting that here this week. Yeah, I think what they would say is, well, that's what God, whatever it is, has asked us to refer to him by. Probably how they would say it.
Sounds
But
pretty
yeah,
gender inclusive of you, Hayden.
yeah, not he's not God is non-binary in the classical view.
But we should respect
Mm.
his wish to be identified.
Yeah, we should.
It is really funny. I don't really like I think this is just a hilarious argument. All right, then we have thoughts on the Shroud of Turin and
Fake.
the weirdly described biblically accurate
Uh,
angels.
Kay, do you want to speak on this? I don't know the Shroud of Turin very well, but I understand the biblically accurate angels sentiment.
Fake. It's literally fake. I don't fall for it.
I'm pretty sure though it's less fake than it used to be.
Well, no, that's what everyone thinks because the evangelical YouTube picked it up and ran with it. And it was because these two dudes who like wrote about it, like they were like, I had a vision that it's like my dream, like my job in life to prove that the Shroud of Turin is real and
Oh,
authentic.
someone found some fibers on
Well, yeah, no, it's
there.
these two guys who had that thing and they were like, yeah, look, if you like zoom in, it like this shroud is like from probably the time of Jesus, but it's cap. It's not actually real. It's like certainly a 14th century fabrication. Like they were like, oh yeah, like turns out the shroud, like the cloth is older than we thought. Like,
Yeah,
okay, that doesn't mean it wrapped Jesus's body and then was lost
I know,
for
but
1,000, 1,400 years.
the blood on the shroud shows that the person whose blood it is died from a passion so painful that we can't even imagine it.
I don't think that's true because if you look at the Jesus on the shroud, he's chill. He's like,
Yeah, no, that's me trying to steel man the shroud, but I am not a shroudist, as they say. I just made that
Okay,
up.
before we go on to the next one, because it's
Oh, yeah.
controversial amongst us three, let's do some book stuff, and then we'll come back to Brown Paladin
Okay. I
yeah,
like
because
it.
he wants to talk about infinite regress.
Did you
Which
want to take biblically accurate angels though?
I would just say there's symbolic language in the scriptures. I don't have a problem with that. The end.
Nice. Probably not true. Oh,
Okay. Um, very cool. Well, thanks for all who are watching. What do we got? 123 in the chat I see right now.
yeah, that's good.
it's insane. It's awesome.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I did pin the link for the book, which you can find on Amazon, in the live chat, and it's also in the description of the video. Check that out. The purpose of this live stream is to just kind of review the argument, and so I need to confess. I told Baylor this before the show, but I need to confess to Cade. I may owe Cade royalties on the book, and here's why. Last July, Cade, you made a video. I think I could look it up. I think I messaged you, and I was like, "This is the most important video on the internet right now." It was your hell and creation
Yeah.
dilemma. I don't know if you called it a dilemma, but the hell and creation problem
Yeah.
for classical Christianity, and it's the one. So how about you? Just because you're the originator amongst us three of this idea, I think what happened was you like put it in my subconscious. Like I really liked it, and then when I started tabling, I just started using the argument because it was so powerful. And then now it's been 8 or 9 months, and just a few months ago, I'm like, I should, because I was preparing for a debate on the topic. I was going to debate a Roman Catholic on can the triune or classical God be called all good? And with all of my notes and preparation, I'm like, I should just write a book about it. So, and it's a short read. It's only 73 pages, so you can kind of read through it in an afternoon. But Cade, maybe you give us an outline, and I don't know how much of the book you read already, but give us an outline of what the argument is.
Well, dude, I mean, you killed it. Like you summed it up perfectly and you did it quickly and succinctly and extremely clear. And as you said, I made a video about this forever ago, and I think it's like airtight. Like I think there's very little wiggle room unless you take like a radically
Yes.
different conception of hell. It's
Yes.
pretty much the only option. And then you're a heretic like the rest of us Mormons. So like join the club,
Mm-hmm.
come hang out, get anathematized.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the what I like kind of discovered this argument when I was reading a theologian named David Bentley Hart, and he's an Eastern Orthodox theologian. And he was like, look, guys, if creation from nothing is true, then you have to be a universalist. Like you have to, the mortal destiny of everything that God creates has to end up in the best possible state of affairs or its reflection on God, because that means that he willed for something to be not perfect. And if a perfect being wills for something to be not perfect, then it's not really a perfect being. And I was like, wait a second. He's just like kind of starting with the assumption of creation from nothing and then saying you have to be a universalist.
Mm-hmm.
Latter-day Saints have an even stronger position because we don't have to grapple with creation from nothing. We get the benefit of appealing to preexistence, and we also get the benefit of appealing to the. We also get the benefit of appealing to some kind of universalism, like everyone will receive some sort of glory in our view. So the I like got it from someone using the argument to go another direction, but I think it's even more useful for us. But yeah, I mean, you don't owe me royalties at all. You like absolutely killed it. Like in your video and your book, like you did it extremely well.
I appreciate that. Speaking of video, I actually have a little short here that I thought maybe we could watch of my cross-ex that for anyone who's never heard of this argument before, I think this little 2-minute clip like summarizes it really well. So would you guys mind if I just pull that up and let's just watch it real quick?
Run it.
And then tell me when to you can interrupt me and I'll pause it. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I need to make sound, turn sound on. Okay, let's try that. Okay, here we go. Gavin, are you a Roman Catholic?
Yes.
Okay. Do you believe that the triune God ever wills the bad of any person on the earth?
No.
Okay, can we just talk about that for a second? If God doesn't will your bad, but he made you knowing you were going to go to hell, like how do you square that? That's that's the basis for the argument. Okay, let's keep going. Okay, so God only wills good for people. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Do you agree with Catechism paragraph 600 that says, to God, all moments of time are present in their immediacy? Okay, let me ask it a different way. Do you believe God knows the absolute future?
Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah. Okay. So before creating any person, God already knows with certainty whether that person will ultimately be saved or not. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Do you believe God is all powerful, the triune God?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything in existence that is equal to or more powerful than the triune God? This question was the most surprising to me. It took him like 30 seconds to answer that question. He was like, hmm. And then eventually he's like, no. And I'm like, are you Roman Catholic? Like, what could be more powerful than God?
Mary.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, Mary's actually mentioned in this. Let's keep watching here.
No.
Is God free to create or refrain from creating any particular individual? Like, can he choose to create or not create by his choice?
Of the
Okay, but
free will of the one
you've
person.
you've already affirmed that God is not forced to. He freely chooses to, right?
Right.
Do you affirm that some people will experience eternal separation from God, meaning they're going to go to hell?
The sons of perdition, yes.
Okay. And is that hell permanent for them?
Fire.
Yes.
Okay, eternally, and they it's not for a set amount of time and then they get out. It's forever, right?
Yeah, it's forever.
Okay. Would you agree that eternal separation from God is worse for that person than eternal communion with God? Is it worse to go to hell than to go to heaven?
Yes.
Okay. We agreed that omnibenevolence means willing the good of every moral subject without exception. Is that right?
Right.
Okay. Can you please explain to us how freely creating someone while foreknowing their eternal conscious torment is willing their good?
We will only know when our minds are enlightened, when we
So,
reach theosis
so
in the
mystery,
next life. Yeah.
mystery. Okay. So that's
Oh,
basically the
mystery.
argument. And the question is, how do you escape that without retreating from, well, for him, it's a Roman Catholic. He's even more stuck. I think Protestants, evangelical Christians will make concessions and be like, yeah, well, maybe God's like this. And it's like, for Roman Catholics especially, I think they're kind of stuck. And they also have something that I call the Mary problem, which is so, like sometimes you ask a Protestant, like, can God make a human that is free-willed and perfect? And I've heard some Protestants say, well, no. And Catholics can't really use that because they have Mary, who what God made without original sin. So can he just if if God can make someone without original sin, why do we have original sin?
Because some guy exactly 6,000 years ago ate a fruit that he wasn't supposed
Well,
to.
not only did he eat a fruit, he followed a woman.
Oh yeah, he listened to a chick. He listened
Yeah.
to a chick and ate some fruit, and now you and I are stuck with this. So.
Baylor can say that because he's single. I'm not going to make any comments on.
Oh yeah, is that the married problem that he's unmarried?
That's the unmarried
And
problem.
I'm liberal, so I can make sex mistakes.
That's right. That's right. So for anyone watching, you just saw that little clip. That's what this book is. It introduces the dilemma that if you want a God who is all powerful and unbound, meaning he can do anything he wants, and he knows the future, meaning that he knows before he creates a soul, right? God is the originator of souls. We as humans may procreate and may participate in a physical creation of a physical body, but the soul of a person, which is the eternal part of the person, is made by God alone. And he knows before he makes a soul if that soul's going to be in heaven or hell. And he doesn't have to make the soul, and nothing's forcing him to, and he still chooses to do that, even if the soul he's about to create is going to go to hell. And so that's where did you guys watch that video with the button analogy?
Yeah.
We think it's I don't know if we should even say this. We think it's a person that we know in disguise. I don't know if we even want to say the name, but he made a video based on this argument. It's called the button analogy, which is basically what I just said. You're handed a button. You're told if you press this button, somebody's going to come into existence. They're going to experience real life, but they're going to go to hell. And are you going to press the button? And it's like, I don't know. So tell me thoughts of the argument itself.
I have something to say, and then you can go. But I think the button analogy is way. I did a roller coaster intuition pump in my video, and I think the button intuition pump's way better. So like GG's for coming up with something that illustrates it a little more cleanly, I think. But it's even worse, I think, than the button analogy. Like the button analogy is bad enough, but like if you accept creation from nothing, you're accepting that everything that exists has an ontological dependence on God, and that means that however that thing is in that very moment is a product of what God wants it to be. Like God can't just like create something because that thing's nature is to not exist and then just allow it to do whatever it wants and he not have any control over it. That thing's nature is non-existence, and every second it is in existence, it's being sustained by God ontologically.
Yes.
So the way it is a product of God's supporting that thing ontologically. So if I'm sinful and deserving of hell, then that would be God's fault on this view. So it's the button. God is consistently pressing the button and making us do sins that would send us to hell. Like he's like, all right, go get him. And then we're born. And then he's like, actually, Adam, eat the fruit. And then he's just consistently making us depraved And it
So
just doesn't
so
make sense.
let's clarify because we don't want to straw man them and have them straw man us. We're not saying that the button controls the person. Here's the good thing about this argument. It doesn't the free will doesn't matter. That's actually chapter 3 in the book. As I go through chapters 3, 4, and 5 are rebuttals to the most common solves or attempts to solve this dilemma. And the first one is free will. And the thing is, it doesn't matter. You can still have free will because some people like Blake Osler and those who are more highly intelligent than us in logic will say, well, if God knows the future, you don't have free will, even if you don't want to accept that. Like Frank Turk, I hear him say all the time, like knowledge is not causation. All right, we can talk about that. But even if it's not, it doesn't matter because God knows what you're going to choose. It's kind of like this in chapter 1. I actually give another analogy right after the button analogy, and it's I call it the sixth child, and it's like you and your spouse have 5 children. You pray to ask God, his will on should you have another child or what should you do, and God comes to you and he's like in person, he's like, hey, you can have another child, it's totally up to you, it's not a sin if you don't, but if you do, that child, I'm telling you, I know he's going to go to hell. And then he
He's
leaves
going
and
to
then you look at your
burn
spouse and
forever.
you're like, yeah, it's like, okay, should we have this child or should we not?
Yeah. 'Cause I think sometimes we say go to hell and it's like it's lost the meaning, but it's like no, like he's gonna live a lifetime of
Mhm.
hanging out, doing his thing, and then he's going to burn
Yeah.
consciously in a lake
Yes.
of fire for
Yes.
eternity.
Yeah, and in my video that I originally did, I was like, yeah, look, I think you have some problems. If you want to try and use the free will defense for this problem, it may not even be possible given that you are ontologically supported by God in every moment.
Mhm.
And okay, let's say you even get around that and you even say, okay, God did create all of us and somehow we have free will. Okay, just grant it. I use I called it the eternal conscious torment machine, the
Mhm.
intuition pump, where it's like no matter what, like if your child like free will isn't that valuable to allow such a terrible thing. Like if anyone that you remotely care about was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go plug into this eternal conscious torment machine. It's gonna give me like undescribable misery forever and ever, and I can never leave the machine." I wouldn't, as a friend or a parent, be like, "Yeah, dude, like you got free will. Good for you, man." Like, no, I would literally not let them get
Yeah.
involved. I would not let them plug into the machine. Like I would genuinely use violence to stop them from entering that machine. That would be justified. But
Mhm.
it just isn't this our intuitions on this don't map to people's theology. There's a mistranslation happening.
Totally. And you know what? That's why I love the Calvinists because they're so consistent. The Calvinists will say, they'll actually take it a step further. They'll say, actually, God doesn't just know who's going to go to hell. He actually chose. He was the one who chose. It's like we're all drowning. I like Jacob Hansen's analogy. He says, we're all drowning in a lake and none of us can swim and we're all going to die. And Jesus comes over with a helicopter, and it's an infinitely large helicopter, so everybody can get in the helicopter. He has the means and the power to pull everyone in the helicopter to save us. But he just says, actually, I'm just going to choose you, you, and you. I could save the rest of you, and I have every means to do so and power to do so, but I'm choosing not to.
But he's like,
We're,
it gives me glory. It makes me look super sick if I
yeah, it
let
makes
you
me
guys
look
drown.
so cool.
The
Because if I
flesh.
saved all of you, then you wouldn't be able to contrast like my good and like good with evil. So I gotta leave like a significant amount of you. And my response to that is if you only if that's the reason why God needs some to suffer, why don't you just have one person suffer? Like
Yeah.
why more than one?
Well, I think you just have to lean hard into the idea of adoption that like God does
Yes.
not love all of his creations at all, not even a
Yep.
little bit. He only
It's gonna
loves
be
those who he
wonderful to hear
loves.
James White say that in the debate.
Yeah. But even if you don't love, I mean, it's still like, you think about like a pig or something, like even if you make the creature in question like less valuable potentially, it's like, do you want to send the pig to burn forever? Or the puppy or whatever? It's like,
Yeah.
no, I
And if
still don't want to do
and if you create it from nothing, you could have made a creature more valuable, but you chose to not make
it.
it more valuable. You chose to make something worthy of damnation. It's like, why even mess around?
Oh well, they chose it. That's the answer. Is God did make these humans, Adam and Eve, like perfectly, and then they chose otherwise. And then so the question has to be
Yeah,
like,
we didn't make them perfectly though, because if he made them perfectly, they wouldn't have chosen otherwise.
yes, that's exactly right. So it's a sleight of hand. Like they say they started in this paradisical world, but then they chose otherwise. And it's like I love Alex O'Connor's rebuttal. He's like, well, who put the snake in the garden? Like, who put the tree in the garden? Like, why do you? So my question for creedal classical Christians is, um, did God want Adam and Eve to partake of the fruit? And their answer always is no. I think there was like one time I had a Protestant like, actually, yeah, because it like provides for our growth. I'm like, that's our
That's cool.
position.
You're like, welcome to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Yes.
Yeah, it does kind of
Yeah.
put, dude, the fall. I mean, like Latter-day Saints, we have our own issues with the fall. Like, I don't think any tradition is like able to accurately describe what's going on in the fall. Like, we just have to be honest. Like, we are dealing with a very old, esoteric, and probably tampered with Old Testament
Narrative.
narrative, and
Mhm.
it's just really difficult to make sense of. So I think if you're like really trying to derive like accurate analytic theological positions from it, you're just going to run into problems. Like we just kind of have to take it for what it is and like see what we can learn from it and try not to ask more of it than is
Yeah.
reasonable.
But it's true what you're saying about Alex O'Connor's argument of who put the snake in the garden. Why are they even in this tree set up in the first place? It's like, you know, putting me on a cruise ship and being like, oh yeah, he chose to gamble. It's like, no, you trapped me on a water prison with a casino
There
on it.
might be something to that.
Like, why am I even there? Like, if the goal is for me not to gamble, why put me on the cruise ship with the casino, you know?
Or why give you a nature that would be inclined to gamble? That's
Yeah,
the
why make me the luckiest person on
Yeah,
earth?
and I ask myself that every day. That's the real problem of evil.
I'm excited for Jared's video to come out so we can learn a little bit more about that.
Come on, come on.
Okay, so we can talk more about the book, but again, it's on Amazon. It's in the pinned comment in the
Yeah.
description of the video.
One thing that
Mhm.
I want to say about the book is
Yeah.
we have to be careful as we adopt arguments that kind of call into question some of the claims that other people of other faiths make. We want to make sure that we're not turning believers into atheists, you know? So as you use the arguments that I think Hayden fleshes out really well, you want to make sure you're one-two punching that with the message of the restored gospel and saying, hey, you can still believe in God, you can still believe in Jesus, and you can believe in them in this way. We don't want to be like our evangelical critics who are like, "Did you know that there used to be racists in the church?" And it's like, well, great. I mean, and it's like they're just turning believers into atheists. They're not giving them anything in replacement. So that's my 2 cents about it. I think it's a really compelling argument. I think it's airtight, like Cade said. But it's up to us to use it properly.
Yeah, well said. You know what? That's a great point. I will say chapter 8, so there's only 9 chapters in it. Like I said, about 73 pages, I think it is. As a quick read. You can read it in an afternoon and understand the argument very well and be able to articulate it. Chapter 8 is the chapter where I introduce Latter-day Saint theology, because that's what I basically say. I say, hey, just because this framework of God fails, right? Because you can't be all good and all knowing and send people to hell and be called all good. Like you can't fit all those
Yeah.
in the same house, is the analogy that I use. That doesn't mean God doesn't exist. It just means that framework, which comes from an adoption of these bunk Greek metaphysics or this perfect being theology, right? This Neoplatonic conception of God, just because that doesn't work, doesn't mean you can't adopt it. And then I introduced the Latter-day Saint position. And by the way, there's several solves to this, and I mentioned this, I think, actually in chapter 6, that if you want to solve this, you either have to limit God's power or freedom, you have to limit his foreknowledge. Or you have to reject. You can reject creation ex nihilo, which I think helps, but it doesn't always solve the problem, depending on the other elements of God. Or you have to redefine good. Like what? Like, can you say that God is good if He's sending people to hell or creating people knowing they're going to go to hell? So I'll just give you my solve, and I don't know if you guys are open theists, but we can have a mini debate on that. I'll just say this: open theism solves this outright, right? If God cannot know the future, then he's not making individuals knowing they're going to go to hell or not.
Yeah, or maybe
Now,
just I
mhm,
would say if the future doesn't exist.
yes, yeah, if he can't know the future because it doesn't exist. So there's a whole debate there. Because I reject that, My solve for it is eternal law and the premortal life, right? If we consent to be here knowing the chance that we may end up really as a son of perdition, and eternal law meaning potentially God is required to send people to earth who desire to be here. For example, like let's say Judas is a son of perdition, and or even you could say Satan, right? Let's say if he's and I know there's debate on an intelligence versus a spirit, but let's say God brings Satan into a spirit body or whatever that looks like, or into a pre-earth life state, we'll
Sure.
say an adoption. Maybe because Satan wanted to go there, wanted to try, if you will, that potentially God was not able to deny him that. Now, I mentioned in the book there's no doctrine set on this, but I say that is a solve if you don't want to deny foreknowledge. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on other solves or how we solve it, but yeah, I don't want people to feel like this
Yeah,
means we're atheists.
definitely. So yeah, there's a few ways to solve it, and I think that it's miraculous. I think we have to give Joseph Smith his due, how the scriptures that he revealed really give the Lord his due, but the scriptures that were revealed through Joseph Smith, they do a good job of accounting for all this.
Yeah, and I would add to your list. I don't know if you kind of hinted on it a little bit, but just like maybe the most dramatic change in Christian soteriology in the history of the tradition in Joseph Smith's revelation about a tiered heaven and an intermediary state of the dead.
Hmm.
That does a lot of heavy lifting to resolve the issue. Like if instead of like, oh, your 80 years is up, you're cooked, it's like, hey, you didn't really get there, but you still got all the chances you need. Like, come
Well, and
check it
it's not
out.
you're not looking for the stamp on the passport. You're growing. It's like, yeah, you could have grown more, but you still grew, you know.
Yeah. I would say the biggest considerations that handle this for us are preexistence, rejection of creation from nothing, theosis, having the opportunity to become like God rather than just like having a forensic justification, as many Protestants would put it, and the existence of a tiered heaven that doesn't involve eternal conscious torment. Like we have this intermediary state where everyone will choose to be exalted with the state that they are comfortable with.
Excellent.
And I also want to add too, that
Yeah.
I feel like when I make this point, a lot of our detractors who this is what I think happens. I feel like they kind of feel a little bit intimidated by the argument, and they want to lump us into the camp and say this applies to you guys too because you have this thing called sons of perdition. I really don't think that is an adequate category to apply to this issue. First
Oh.
off, like let's say that they just assume a lot about the sons of perdition. Like we've had prophets and apostles say like the number of people that end up in as a son of perdition in outer darkness is like too few to even consider. In my head, that sounds like zero. Like I think one is enough to consider. And so like that sounds like zero to me. I don't know. I'm just like speculating. And then like when you look at like what you have to do to become a son of perdition, like it is like it's impossible. Like it is so unbelievably hard to do
Yeah.
that I really don't think it's worth talking about in this conversation.
I also
Yeah.
think
Hmm.
there's it's like instead of dealing with the majority of mankind, like Kate mentioned, we're dealing with a, you know, potentially less than five number of people and that have chosen to be sons of perdition despite God's will otherwise. Yet God is honoring that choice. And then we also, once we get there, then you still have some of the solves that maybe, you know, like something like annihilationism or something where it's like we still don't even know what outer darkness looks like, you know.
Yeah, maybe it's not eternal
But
conscious
it's
torment.
like
Yeah.
definitely not the lake of fire because this is its own thing.
Hmm. I think if anything, at least we can agree how it's solved, that it actually can be solved. And that's
Yeah.
part of the book is if you want to solve this issue, the creation dilemma, and it's called the creation dilemma because the first moral act that happens in a person's life is not actually performed by the person, it's performed by God. Right? I mean, think about it like this. Like if I usually say this when I'm tabling. I'm like, okay, if I end up going to hell, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to look at God and say, why am I even here? Like you knew I was going to end up here of my own free will and choice, even not saying he forced me. But like, I don't want to play your stupid game. Maybe I don't want to worship you, and that's why I'm going to hell. But I don't even want to exist. Just annihilate me, and that's another solve. Maybe that's the J-dubs. They solve this. They'd say, well, you just don't exist. Like eternal conscious torment doesn't exist. So that's the other solve is you can deny eternal hell. So yeah, you
I
have that.
if I got to hell, I would find Martin Luther right away and challenge him to some athletic ability, to some challenge, and I would just absolutely mog him.
If I go
Excellent.
to hell, then I'm finding Joseph Smith and I'm helping him turn it into heaven. It's gonna be
Yeah,
amazing.
that's what he
And
said.
I'll do that right after I get done absolutely brutalizing Martin Luther on the basketball court.
Yes.
Also, hold on, sorry, I have to shout this guy out. T. Hitch, just he said, "I don't run it." Elite LaMelo Ball reference.
And
Had to
he,
shout that out.
and he said he liked our video. That was nice. Should we hear some of these super chats?
Yeah, we got quite a few, so let's go through these and then we
Do
can
you
kind of
want to hit
close.
that? Do you want to go in order? Do you want to hit that infinite regress one?
Yeah, let's just shoot in order.
Okay. This is Brown Paladin 31. On the infinite regress of gods, if eternal marriage is something that has to be done in mortality, like we believe, then sorry, I just like thought that was interesting. So when we do it, eternal marriage for people that are dead all the time, but I think I know what he means. Like someone, I guess, has to be here. Then how can Heavenly Father and Mother be married if they were never mortal, like Jacob Hansen thinks?
If Jacob Hansen assumes Blake Ostler's model, then they actually do believe that they were mortal at one point. I don't know any details, and I don't think they claim to know details. Do you guys know more about the monarchical monotheism model of the mortality of the father?
Well,
I think the model is like whatever it was, we don't know anything about it.
yeah, I mean, this is what I'll say. You can say God has the thought. So you can say you have the conception of the Trinity that, Jesus Christ stepped out of the Godhead and emptied himself and took on the flesh, and the Godhead still persisted, and Jesus resurrected and reunited with the Father and the Spirit in the fullness of their indwelling unity and love. So then you say, well, the Father's, then you make a jump. You say, okay, well, the Father has a body. It seems like in King Follett, Joseph Smith was arguing that the Father once did something similar where he emptied himself and took on the flesh and had a similar experience and showed the Savior, presumably, how to perform the resurrection. Then you have another jump to say, actually, Heavenly Mother was also there, also did the same thing. Um, so yeah, I don't think that is fleshed out at all by anyone. Um, what I will say is that this kind of all hinges on this presupposition that eternal marriage has to be done in mortality. And I don't know if that's, again, I think a lot of infinite regress, a lot of infinite regressists, I don't know if that's the word. I feel like their critiques of the what did you call it?
The
The
monarchical
eternal God model, I
monotheism,
guess, or the monarchical,
the
Like the
Osler
true,
model.
the
accurate.
true right one. Like a lot of their critiques kind of rely on this idea of like making God in man's image, right? So it starts with our experience, and it's like, for example, like with Jesus, it's like, well, like we had to do X, Y, or Z. So like Jesus or Heavenly Father or Heavenly Mother must have had to do that same thing. And we would just reject that presupposition entirely. If it's like, no, why? Just because we have to do something doesn't mean they had to do it.
Like, yeah, we had to come here and like sin and figure stuff
Yeah.
out. Jesus didn't have to come here and sin and figure like I don't know. I'm not a huge
But he did have to come get a body. So that would be my biggest critique of the monarchical monotheism is because I don't believe Blake as the I think originator of this theory, if you will, claims that the father has always had a mortal or a body in the same way that we do. And so part of his model is he had to go get a body. and that's where the mystery jumps in and says we don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Am I
I
understanding that
think
correctly?
I think that's just part of his reconciliation of King Follett. Like he's like, hey, if you want to reconcile King Follett, this
Yeah.
is how you do it. He may also subscribe to that personally. I'm not sure. But I mean, you could just say the Father's eternally had a body, and that's the way it is, you know.
Yeah, I guess you could just do that. Okay, let's go. Let's go to the next one. We got quite a few more here. Let's save this for a formal debate, Baylor, you and I. Okay, our Eastern Orthodox friend, the solas are not creedal. They aren't in the creeds. Yeah, they're in the confessions. Very good. Okay,
Um,
thoughtful theology. This is my friend Taylor. I did an episode with him a couple weeks ago. He said, "Come on, Hayden. I figured after our talk you would ease up on sola scriptura. I guess we need part two." Yes, I
seems like a
let's
nice guy.
we'll do part two. Oh, by the way, Taylor, I also sent your copy of The Creation Dilemma in the
Hey,
mail, so you should be expecting that here in a little bit.
if someone got you to ease up on sola scriptura, I would be that would
Yeah, I
be
don't.
that would be
I'd be
Protestantism's
curious.
silver bullet, bro. If
Yeah,
someone can make you ease up on sola scriptura, that would be like I'd be concerned for the future of the Christian landscape.
I
This
don't
guy
know
is
exactly
like
what he
genuine
means by. I
Protestant.
think he's just teasing me. I don't think I ever budged in the. I will say, I think Taylor is amongst the very the most thoughtful Protestants.
There we
I
go.
think he's in the S tier for them for sure.
Nice. There we
Yeah.
go. Shout
Okay,
out
you want
Taylor.
to take the next ones?
Yeah. The Blagere again. Thank you for all the super chats. Says when they say he, this is about the gender question. It's a relation identity, not biological. The father is the source. Only the son is a he in a biological sense in his human nature. So I guess he's saying the father is not a he because only the son is a he. I feel like if the father is the source, if we're importing these pronouns, I feel like that would make the father a she because women are the source of us.
Yeah, but he says it's in a relational
Yeah, he's the
relation
creator, maybe.
identity. I would need a little more
But I'm
clarification.
I'm just teasing. I'm not actually saying he's a she, but
Yeah, it actually does get tricky. But to be fair, we do have Mosiah 15 that says the son does the will of the father, so he becomes the father. So there's some nuance there for sure.
oh, I mean, yeah, that's the fun. I
Not,
mean, it's funny to make the jokes, but like, obviously, we're all about. We believe they do have gender in some sense, so we're the last people to criticize that. Parker Katani says, Hayden, you think that the apostles? I'm assuming, do you think that the apostles should do more interfaith discussion or apologetics?
No. Yeah, sorry, I
It's
know
actually,
that
it's actually
that
not
was
your question.
directed to Hayden, but I have to
Oh,
jump in
your
here
question.
real quick.
Yeah.
No. I want to say apostles and prophets as far away from intellectual scholarship, theology, philosophy, and apologetics, and some interfaith stuff's cool. I think that's great.
Yeah.
But like the prophets and apostles are meant to point us to Christ and lead us in our walk with Christ. Like you can't. I'm not a fan of conflating like theology and like propositions and nerdy stuff with like pastoral care. Like our prophets and apostles are all about pastoral care, and they're about giving us what we need to live well. Like the vast majority of I'm crashing out. The vast majority of individuals in the church who are needing the voice of the prophets aren't like, I really wish we could like nail down like the metaphysics of the sacrament. No, dude, people, I said it earlier, people are sad. People just want like, hey, like, how do I like live aligned
Yeah.
with Christ? How do I be happy? How do I like be a good father? Like they just need like they need good pastoral care.
Hayden, what do you say?
I think I largely agree. I don't think they need to be. I think their role is to receive revelation from God. And I guess if God revealed some apologetic thing, which I don't think he will, and he never has, that's kind of left to the peasants, if you will, the people who don't really know or don't have that
Yeah.
worldwide stewardship. I will say interfaith discussions, sure. And I could see that happening. I think with the age of I think we've seen snippets of it with Elder Bednar. We've seen snippets of it. And I just mean like being online and like with technology, like
Yeah.
talking to people. Now they obviously have to be careful because they don't want to get in a controversial,
Clipped.
gotcha, someone who just wants to get a clip out of them. But if they have a genuine person who wants to talk with them, I think they should. And I know they have many more important things to do, but that could be helpful in the future, I think, within reason.
I think
So
that's like kind of our whole perception of the apostasy is like, yeah, the bishops and these guys that had authority to receive revelation, they
right.
started philosophizing and they started
That's,
making creeds. So
that's
yeah,
exactly right. Isn't
uh,
that funny that I don't know, I will say it does kind of bother me when people say that the bishops have apostolic authority. They were called by apostles, but apostolic authority is, I mean, is it fair to say that that's the authority of an apostle?
yeah, it's
I mean,
it's funny. I think it's
wouldn't
funny.
wouldn't you be an
There's
apostle?
apostolic succession. I'm like, okay, who are the apostles? They're like, well,
Yeah,
no,
It wasn't the like the succession wasn't apostolic. It
but the
was like
it was
bishops.
ecclesiastical. I'm okay with that.
yeah.
But
Yeah,
what could the apostles do that the bishops couldn't? And it was like receive revelation from God. And it's not. I'm not saying they claim that they can, but I think you said it perfectly. It's like they try to figure it out the best they can without talking to God, which is also weird because then they'll turn around in the same breath and say, "Well, the church can be led by the Holy Spirit." It's like, so is God talking to them or is He not? I guess they have the deposit of faith, and they would say they can just clarify what the apostles gave. But anyway, that's a whole other conversation.
all right. Let's see here. Holy cow, there's a lot of these. Thank you, everyone. I actually, my thing,
Fishing hard. Do you see that one?
I've got some. Where are we looking?
I can't load the next one. Let's see where you
I have them all here
Yeah,
if we need them.
yeah, you, uh,
I'll do
you
fishing
do
hard,
'em.
and then
Yeah. Yep. Gotcha. Does exaltation, do we just do this one? No,
I
these
I've
are
hearted all the ones we've done.
okay. Does exaltation mean perfectly united knowledge with God eventually? If so, wouldn't every exalted being eventually know everything about everyone? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Osler has a good take on this. Sorry, I jokingly told Emerson Green, I was like, Emerson, did you see the 13th apostle commented on your
Was
video? Because
was it Blake?
we quote Osler like more than the apostles, and I think it's funny. I don't know. Anyways, but trying to be self-aware. But Osler has a good take on this where he talks about the Father um, is progressing experientially. So, when with this kind of assumes that knowledge is a closed set, there's only so many things that can be known, and eventually you know all of them. Whereas we would look at, you know, God's experience with me. It's his first time experiencing his relationship with me. It's a new thing for him, even though he is all knowing. He's still experiencing. So I don't know if that answers the question or not, but I think it at least opens the door to think about it a little bit differently.
And I'd be okay, kind of taking a principle from open theism. I'd be okay saying that God knows all things that are possible to know, and that may defer to time, or that may defer to, or that may refer to like capacity or like realm.
Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, those are all theories of God's knowledge that I think we don't know anything about. But yeah, it could
definitely.
be that, or could mean something else.
I can go to the next one.
Yeah.
It's easy to escape. The answer is God is also all loving, and love can't be forced. So God values a person's ability to choose over the outcome of said choice. It's a tragic paradox. I agree. That is a very tragic paradox. This is our Orthodox friend again, I think.
Is he Orthodox, or was he just giving their position?
I mean, in the very first comment, he said Eastern Orthodoxy is the true church. So unless he
Oh,
meant that
okay.
rhetorically.
Yeah, Kate,
Yeah, I
as
mean,
a
I don't see how
philosophy
that
major, do you have any
escapes the
thoughts on that?
issue, but sorry, what'd you say, Hayden?
I said, as the philosophy major, do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I feel like he kind of just highlighted our issue with the whole thing again. I don't think an all-loving being would allow one of his children to enter into the eternal conscious torment machine.
Yeah, like it's cool to honor, like we all agree honoring like free will is great. It's important, like honoring choice is good. But like to what end, right? Like if you have a parent that just keeps their kid inside all the time and never lets them go outside, it's like, yeah, that's a bad parent. Like we all agree with that.
Mhm.
But if you live, like if across the street is like a lake of lava and you're just like, hey, I'm gonna let you make your own choices, and you let your toddler just walk into the lava. No one's like, well, you know what? At least she didn't helicopter over him. It's like, no, that's like a
At
real
least the
problem.
parent valued the free will of the child. No, that wouldn't cross anyone's mind.
Yeah, and God does intervene occasionally. So it's like if, you look at Paul, right? Paul leading a sinful life, and God intervenes on his behalf. And if you think that judgment occurs at death, it's over at death, your passport's stamped or it's not, it's problematic to have like certain people like Paul that like get bailed out by these big interventions, and then other people he lets them walk into the lava. It's like,
Yeah, that's a good analogy. You don't let your kid, it's not loving to let your kid do things that are harmful to themselves.
Well, it's not
yeah,
it, like free will, like it's valuable, I get it, but it's not like the highest moral. I don't know why everyone just assumes that it's like the greatest thing that can't be negotiated with in any
yeah,
way. Like day to day, we make all sorts of decisions that violate the free will of others for a greater good. Like that is
yeah,
what every punishment is from a legal standpoint. And like if I walked outside right now and someone was like beating a puppy, like I wouldn't be like, oh well, they have their free will. I'd be like, no, like I'd get them off
yeah,
the
chill.
animal. Like free will isn't that valuable. Like yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, like it's valuable, but it's not more valuable than like not letting your kid fall in lava.
But here's I totally agree, but here's what they would say, I think, is well, God is the standard of goodness. So if God does something, we have to assume that that is the loving decision. So it's just a trump card. But it's like
Yeah.
when you say that anything God doesn't, and I address this in the book, if you start to say that anything God does is good and it includes letting the toddler walk into the lava pool, it's like you're not saying God is good anymore. You're actually saying God is God. Like you're
Yeah.
not defining good. You're not defending God's goodness. You're just saying, yeah, he can do whatever he wants. And we're gonna call that good. That's the issue. And that's a major point in the book.
Yeah.
And that view you just described is called divine command theory,
Hmm.
and it is like in the meta ethics. That's the branch of philosophy where we're talking about this. Like it's not like a respected position. Like in the Phil paper survey, where they survey all the philosophers, all their views on a range of things, the the divine command theory like slot wasn't big enough to be considered in the meta-ethical positions slate. It like there wasn't enough philosophers to even create a category for it.
Wow. Tells us something about it.
It's philosophically bankrupt, as I say. That's
Yeah.
my saying.
It,
I
it
don't
it kind of has to be, but the sad part is classical theism just bites the bullet and says, yeah. Because
well,
oh yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't know. I mean, do you have to accept mind command theory to be a classical theist?
If you
Well,
accept the moral argument for God, you will, which I
yes,
think a lot of
yes.
people do just because it like has some rhetorical force. Because I mean, it's not easy for anyone to explain where moral values and duties come from. And so if you can go to an atheist and be like, well, I get mine from God. Don't ask me how that works or the details, but like, where do you get yours
Yeah.
from? And if they stutter, you're like, see, you dumb atheist. Yeah, screw
But
you.
can't you say that there's an objective morality and believe in that God is consistent with that morality?
Yeah, I think you could. I don't think you have to believe. Like Richard Swinburne doesn't believe in that God is like the source of moral values and duties.
Mm.
There are other fantastic philosophers and theologians who, in the Christian tradition, who don't think so.
And good
Yes.
for them. And I hope that they don't get burned at the stake for
Oh wait,
believing.
no. This is the next one.
Um, all right. This is Josette Joy asking, do you have a second class in your course planned? Like, is this the first class
It's
of your
in the
course?
planning phase. Yeah, we need to find a bigger venue. I had way too many people sign up. She's talking about my apologetic course.
Oh, cool, cool, cool.
And so we did it in person here in Gilbert, and
Oh,
it
nice.
was great, but we need a much bigger venue and a
I
much
want to
bigger.
come, dude. I'm a big Gilbert fan.
Yeah, maybe we should do like a little event. Let's make an event out of it. Invite some content creators.
Yeah.
Let's do it in Flagstaff. Meet halfway.
Flagstaff.
Let's do it in
Let's
Wendover, Nevada.
Oh yeah, that's a great idea.
All right.
let's let's talk about it.
Let's do it at Talking Stick.
Okay. Until it rests says, what about delegation? God allows us, in a sense, to create ourselves, thereby taking on some of his function while remaining ontologically distinct. Thereby taking on some of his function while.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be some nuance with these definitions, but I think that sounds fine to me.
Wait, what? in a sense to create ourselves.
Yeah, like we are in some way responsible for who we become. Like we can kind of craft and cultivate our souls
Yeah, but
as we see
again,
fit.
if he knows, if he has perfect foreknowledge that we're going to craft our soul into one that goes to hell, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And he makes it such that we can craft our soul really well or not really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I think this
It's like a
is,
Mormon view of it, but like you still have to bring in the non-Mormon
yes.
presuppositions.
Yes. You know what I
We
found though is,
also,
oh yeah, go ahead, Kate.
it was a really
Uh,
stupid
yeah.
joke, so I want you to go.
Oh, I was just gonna say, the more and more I talk to classical theists, whether they be Catholics or Protestants mostly, I find them adopting Latter-day Saint doctrine without realizing it. And
Yes,
I'm like, that's actually not what you believe. That's what we believe officially. And you may,
all the
right,
time.
especially as a Protestant, you're not held to anything. Roman Catholic's a different story. But yeah, you sound like a Latter-day Saint. The most common one I've been getting recently when I talk about like babies who go to hell, like if you have to accept Jesus Christ to go to heaven, some people don't accept Jesus Christ, including babies. I can't tell you how many times. Actually, I have an interview coming out that I did at the Bless God Summit with a pastor, and I said, "Well, how do you deal with if accepting Christ is a requirement?" Because you ask them, and they say, "Yes, you have to confess with your mouth." So aborted babies don't confess with their mouth; they don't even have a mouth. Some of them. How can they be saved? And they say, "Well, there's an age of accountability." And it's like, okay, well, doesn't that reject original sin?
Yeah.
Not
Like
original. It's a late onset sin.
lay on some sin. That's
Early
right.
onset.
Age 8.
Early onset sin. Yeah, I guess as soon as you're old enough to burn in hell, that's probably the cutoff.
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, all
Next
right.
one.
Mhm.
Um, how would you respond to a Catholic appealing to things like Marian apparitions or the Eucharistic miracles? Mormonism is true, so it's clearly demonic. No, I would actually disagree with this very strongly.
It's not.
I think that it's very plausible that the Marian apparitions are real. Like I don't see any reason to limit the religious experiences of other traditions outside of
Yeah.
our own. And I don't think that the Eucharistic miracles really hold much water, just not because they're Catholics, just because I don't think they're very good evidence. I actually talked to someone, an ex-Catholic, now atheist, at the summit about this. We actually, you were there, Hayden.
Yeah,
We
he's
were
the
at
guy who
Innertown.
debated Jordan Peterson. He ended Jordan Peterson's career.
Yeah, he's like wicked smart. Like he was so sick, and he walked me through like all of the Eucharistic miracles and where they come from, and I was like, okay,
Yeah.
probably cool. But I think it's very, very plausible that the Marian apparitions were legitimate and that God chose to interact with His children in that way in those parts of the world.
Yeah, just this framing that if Mormonism is true, everything else is demonic. That's just like that would make Joseph Smith roll in his grave, you know. So it's not the way we think about things. And yeah, like Mary could appear right now in this room and it would be like
And she
super
has
super cool. No, come on, don't joke about
not the
that.
Theotokos.
A
It's
different
funny
Mary.
when I talk to Trent
Me,
Horn.
I'm married.
Yeah, he is married. You are not, Baylor. When I talked to Trent Horn a few months ago, he said something really interesting. He said, like, what do you do about the miracles that like have a message with them, like the Eucharistic miracles? And I'm like, what do you mean they have a message with them? Like, did God like
Yeah.
write words? I'm like, you are insinuating a message, which is fine, but please don't say that there's some
Impose it.
objective message that God is trying to
Yeah, it's
send.
different when it's like, yeah, I would agree with Eucharistic miracles. It's different when it's like, you know, the Lafferty brothers are like, oh yeah, we had a miraculous, a spiritual experience that says we need to like kill people. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, that's a defeater, right? That we can say, yeah, I don't think that message was divine. But most, and that happens. Like there are things that, people claim their religion, angels or whatever it may be, and we're like, yeah, I don't know if that happened. I don't know if that's what he said. We have to question it. But until there's a defeater like that, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
man, I don't know what God wants to do.
I think God just be doing crazy shiz all the time on all these continents,
I
and
think,
and just like I think He's just going down, dapping up His people in whatever way they're willing to accept the dap. Like I think He's like just trying to alley-oop all His homies, all His
metaphor.
children in all sorts of ways.
I think, yeah, to kind of translate that, I just think that God is interested in people from all traditions and walks of life um, coming closer to Him and following Him and worshiping Him. And so as much as we wish that was every spiritual experience was the angel Moroni telling people to go become a Latter-day Saint, that's actually does not seem to be the way that God operates. Um, However, we would hold that whether it's Hinduism or Buddhism or Islam or Judaism or Catholicism or even within atheism, that the spirit can lead someone to
Mm.
love their neighbor and to worship and serve God ignorantly.
You
So,
can't tell me when Jared Heliocentric got up on that stage that God was not pleased with that conversation.
100%.
I
100%.
can't wait for that. That was my favorite thing. Even over the debate, the debate was great, but it was two for me over what Jared said,
Yes. I agree.
which was awesome. Dude, I'm sad you guys sorry, quick tangent. I'm just thinking we talked about a little bit about this on our hot tub live stream. You missed it. You missed the hot tub live
I
stream.
know. I'm I'm kind of I don't know if we would have consented to the hot tub live stream.
Cardin started saying things that we did not consent to, so then we got out.
Wait, what? Garden was saying he didn't agree to it?
No, Cardin was saying things that
Oh, things that you don't consent to. Yeah.
yes.
No,
So
I know you guys well enough not to get myself in that situation. No,
yeah,
I'm just
smart.
okay, the Blessure, thank you again. It says, or they say, knowledge in the Hebrew means experiential knowledge. Not that they were ignorant, but that they hadn't experienced good and evil as a lived reality. It was an option. It was an option because love can't be forced.
Okay, here's my first question there. When you say love can't be forced, that seems like you're putting a bind on God. Like, why can't God create an existence where love can be forced? Or
Well,
would they say that
I
that's
think
a
you would say just definitionally, like love requires that it is
so
consensual.
okay, and why is love required? Like, can God have a universe
Yeah,
where love doesn't exist? Like,
that's a better question.
you're not solving the problem. You're just saying this is how it is, and we're like, well, why?
I do think there's something to it. Like I think, like this is
Well,
something that Terrell Gibbons and other Latter-day Saint scholars have argued for. Like love is definitionally something that's chosen. And so
yeah,
like just saying love is freely chosen by definition doesn't get you out of like the eternal conscious torment problem, but it does kind of help you. It does kind of help us, at least as Latter-day Saints, someone who accepts the
yes.
preexistence and rejects eternal conscious torment. It does help us to make sense of why people are not just born loving God always and always love God in every situation.
Yeah, well, and the garden, I mean, depending on how allegorical you want to get, this idea of Adam and Eve making this decision to enter into this new reality and in which they would be asked to love God. And the act of entering into that reality is embodied in the fruit. I think there's something there.
I
Um,
totally agree.
I'll go on to the next one. My boy LJ, Rational Theology Podcast, dropped a fire Aquinas quote that the happiness of the saints may be more delightful to them, and that they may render more copious thanks to God for it, that they are allowed to see perfectly the sufferings of the damned.
And my question is, why do you need more than one suffering of the damned? But
Because it just gets better.
every time you see it, you're like, whoa, I'm so
It's like being
grateful I'm
like,
not
why not just
there.
do one Super Bowl? It's like, no, we do the Super Bowl every
Every
year.
year. Yeah. So you
But
can
if there was
see.
just one Super Bowl, that would be a big deal. Probably be more
It's
important.
like how you limit the number of college football games and they get better each
Mm,
college football game because
There's less.
there's less supply and demand.
yeah.
But yeah,
Good.
so yeah, this is crazy, man. Aquinas.
But that shows you that Aquinas he understood the issue and he tried
Yeah,
to find a solve for it. He understood the issue, which is great.
it's true. Because
He understood every issue
I
from the
see this
get-go,
and I'm
bro.
like, oh yeah, this guy's just a twisted individual. But you're right. This is him seeing a problem and trying to solve it.
No,
Yeah.
Aquinas, I will never slander Aquinas. He's the freaking biggest mind of our lifetime,
For they are
or of
allowed to see
the
perfectly.
humanity's lifetime. Anyway, next we got thoughtful theology again. If on your view God sets up a system that allows for outer darkness and has foreknowledge, people's consent becomes irrelevant because a good God with foreknowledge would still stop them from consenting.
Ooh, you didn't hear my solve, Taylor, that God is bound, right? We believe in the limited power, freedom, God, however you want to say it. That he potentially is required to. Anyway, that would be my take.
Yeah, and also like you mentioned, if you get a little bit more open theistic, where you know, it depends on what you mean by foreknowledge, because I think most days I don't really think that God has perfect foreknowledge of the future in the sense that he knows exactly what everyone's going to do. People talk about the Doctor Strange analogy, where it's like Doctor Strange can see every possible outcome, but it's ultimately there's still actors who need to act and make decisions for themselves. Um,
Also, even if you do accept some kind of foreknowledge, um, I still don't think this is an issue. And he's bringing up outer darkness, it looks like. So just assuming that their outer darkness, like you have to make some big leaps. You have to say outer darkness is eternal conscious torment, and some people will end up there. Like, okay,
yeah,
I'm not on board with that. I don't think that's what we're about. And then also, like, the natural state of our existence is neutrality. We weren't like happy, chilling, exalted beings in heaven
yeah,
that were like incarnated into the worst possible state of affairs so that we can get back. Like we were just like we were neutral creatures. We were simple in some way. And this plan, I think it was chosen because the utilitarian calculus said this is going to be better for everyone. Like no matter what you're going to go through, you're going to suffer in heaven or you're going to suffer on earth and you're going to gain an eternal heaven and bliss no matter what. Like this is way
yeah.
better for everyone. But
And if you're one of the three guys that rejects it, you just go back to floating around the cosmos, which sounds like that's where you were before.
yeah, and you can always change your mind.
After they suffer for their sins, though, in
That's
the
right.
lake of fire, which is the spirit prison.
Dude,
Yep.
it's not a lake of fire.
Not a lake, it's not a literal lake of fire, but it feels hot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like, oh,
Your
I should have.
guilt and your
This is not
regret
fun.
and your
I,
addictions and your imperfections are on full display.
anyways, next one, kingdom hopping, eternal progression, your stance. Sure,
Kate says yes. I say
sounds cool to
no.
me. Yeah, I'm in.
You say no, Hayden?
Yeah, I'm not a Kingdom Hopper guy.
I also say no. That we
Oh,
are
let's
aligned,
go.
finally.
Let's go.
You guys are a fan of this argument. You should be a fan of kingdom hopping because, like I said, the
Mm, it
eternal
solves it.
destiny of the universe and everything under the sun is directly tied. I mean, it's not
Mm.
as bad for us because we reject creation from nothing. But
Yeah,
I still think just I have a general philosophical principle that I took from Aquinas, and he basically just says whatever's the dopest possible thing is what God is going to end up doing. And that I live by that. I think whatever's the sickest thing possible, God's going to do it.
I think that I'm not really opposed to kingdom hopping in terms of like I just don't think it's an issue. I don't think when all is said and done, everyone's cards are on the table. Everyone's had every reasonable opportunity to choose their eternity. I just don't think that I think it's all going to be settled. I don't think people are going to
Yeah, they're
change
gonna
their
make their
minds.
decision. That's kind of how I feel. I guess kingdom hopping could solve the creation dilemma, but my one concern is like, then why does this life really matter, morally speaking, if I can just like fix it later? So anyway, in the interest
Yeah,
of
well,
time.
I think that's a real question that Latter-day Saints have to answer, period. But especially missionaries when they like phrase it like that, where it's like, yeah, whatever works in the
Well,
next life. But I think there is
mm,
incentive to, it's like if we are an acorn as to an oak tree, it's like, well, what's the point of having a good rainy season this time around? Why not just go through the drought and then rain later? It's like, I mean, I think there's a time aspect of I also think there's an easiness aspect. I think going through the drought is hard. I think it's
mhm.
easier to accept the rain that you're being offered. Um, so I think there's a few reasons why we should prioritize repentance and faith in
Yes.
Christ in
And
this
I
life.
do think there are scriptures like in Alma 34 that says after the night of darkness, no labor can be performed. Don't procrastinate the day of your repentance. I agree with McConkie when he said the spirit world is not for second chances. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a big once you've had your chance and you and God will know when that is, then there's no more.
You're aware that talk was like anathematized later, right?
Except for that little section that I just quoted.
But isn't there, I mean, to push back on you here, Hayden, doesn't this kind of fall under your argument of like, if God could give people a second chance in the spirit world, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but he can't. Limited God theory
Because of the eternal
doctrine.
law?
Yes. It solves so many issues. And people say, well, your God is small and weak. It's like,
Well,
no,
there's a difference between finite theism, but I feel like sometimes we get a little bit trigger happy with the phrase eternal law, where we're just like, oh yeah, eternal law. It's like, well, what is that? Like,
It also
what
is
should
kind of
we
just
do?
ad hoc. I think it kind of fills in, and like that's why it's powerful. Like, don't get me
Sure.
wrong. Like, it's powerful because it kind of fills in gaps, but it does kind of just seem like, okay, well, if we're kind of missing, there's a little gap between what we're seeing and what we would like, that's just something God can't do. That's
Yeah.
something in the mortal law.
Because
But I do think it's like it's an answer to the problem.
oh, I
because to me,
totally agree.
this does start to infringe. I mean, my first time thinking about this, but it does kind of infringe on Christ's infinite atonement. If it's like, the justice that exists, whether that's in the eyes of those witnessing it or whether it's just an eternal principle of justice, if it's like, yeah, Christ's atonement is enough to get you one chance on earth, but it's not quite enough to get you that second chance in the spirit world, I feel like it starts to infringe on
Unless we were told, like, I think that the pre-mortal life solves a lot of it too. Like in conjunction, all these things, it's like you knew, like you agreed, you consented to this. So anyway, there's more
yeah.
to be said.
Which actually relates perfect to the next question. How does the veil of forgetfulness affect free will? How is that not playing games with this idea of consent? I don't know. I mean, like this, you do this all the time with consent with like surgery. Like you are intentionally placing a veil on your brain when you go into surgery. You're saying, yeah, you can cut me open, you can do whatever you want. I know it's going to be for my better. I'm not going to remember it. Like, so it's a little bit different. Like there's a block on both sides, sort of this one. But like you say, like I am like me as I exist right now. I'm not going to be aware of this
Yeah.
surgery that I'm about to do. So you veil your consciousness in a sense, and you allow a doctor to like cut you open and do all sorts of crazy stuff because you know it'll be for your good. So, I mean, you kind of are like, I don't think it's playing games with the idea of consent. I think it's just like I think that's just how we understand the word.
Yeah, well, I think it has a purpose. I think it goes along with the comment about love earlier. I think that there's something about faith and love that requires us to choose it freely. And I think that, having our complete faculties and memory of the preexistence kind of limits our ability to truly encounter the Lord and choose to love him without this, you know, like the influence of our memories and like knowing like, well, yeah, obviously this is what I'm supposed to do.
Hmm. If the doctrine is true, then there's no issue there. I don't see
Yeah.
If what doctrine is true.
the pre-mortal life consent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Regarding the training course, I suggest not taking questions until the end of each session so people's questions can totally throw off the flow. I think you meant to say can't totally throw off the flow.
No,
The
they can
training
really.
course. Oh, is he talking about
The
like
apologetics course, I think.
yeah. Yeah, that's hard. And we did experience some of that where people wanted to go down these different
Rabbit
tangents and we
holes.
ran out of time. And yeah,
Yeah.
that may be
If
good.
we show
Thank
up to the next one, we're just gonna press you on infinite regress the whole
you.
time and not let
Be
you
like,
think anything.
I have a question. No. All right. Let's do these
Is
last two and
worship
then we'll wrap up, let you guys go to
yeah.
bed.
Is worship only for the Father? If so, why did Jesus accept worship? I've heard all worship is directed towards the Father. How does that work? I'll give my take on this very quickly and then let you guys go. I don't really care. I feel like we believe in a Godhead that is they indwell and inhere in one another, and I think worship of the Father is worship of the Son is worship of the Spirit, and you can worship one, and you're worshiping all of them, but we pray to the Father because that's what Jesus said. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Hey man.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think there's again, call me an apostate. I think there's a special worship reserved for the Father, Bruce R. McConkie. And I think it works. And we do see, interestingly enough, in the New Testament, different Greek words being used that are both translated into worship, that sometimes it's only directed at the Father and other times it's directed at the Father and the Son. But there's a special word, latria is the Greek word, that's only reserved for the Father. So,
Hmm.
and then when Christ comes back, at least in the Book of Mormon or even in the New Testament after post resurrection, post glorification, exaltation, that it is appropriate that he would accept worship because he's been exalted.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I think
um,
the word worship just we don't really think about what that means,
uh,
but I think, you know, like you said, if the Father's in these loving relationships, not only with the Son and the Spirit, but also with us, I think every good thing is worship that ultimately is directed towards the Father. Like if I, say that Hayden is a really bright guy and a loving disciple of Christ, like that is ultimately that me giving him his worth, like me acknowledging that what he's contributing, that is ultimately glorifying the Father. And the Father tells us this very explicitly when he says, "My work and my glory is to bring about the immortality and eternal life of man." So as we progress towards our eternal destiny and we like that is all everything that is happening is glorifying the Father.
I worship Jimmy's mom.
We save that for another video. We need to do a whole Jimmy Neutron.
All right.
Episode.
And the Blessure, dude, I hope we're saying your name right. I appreciate all the super chats. He says, God is all loving. If he forced it, he's not all loving. It'd be a contradiction. I think that's true. Hell isn't a physical place, it's an experienced reality where God's presence is painful to those who hardened their hearts.
It's an interesting take. So God's present, like God is present in hell, I guess is what the view is here, and that would be uncomfortable for.
It's painful.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's I
Yeah.
rock with that, dude. Keep rolling with that. That's a very radical reconceptualization of hell. I like it.
Is that a kosher Eastern Orthodox view?
I don't know. I was going to tell this guy if he doesn't know a lot about Latter-day Saintism, I'm not saying we do this, but like it seems like he'd be open to maybe considering other doctrines. That's great.
And then lastly, Thoughtful Theology said, "Hey, late here, going to bed. Thanks for the book, Hayden. Legend."
Awesome. Thank you, Taylor, very much. I hope you get that in the mail. That leads us out on a good. Check out Amazon. I have a pin link in the chat, and I have put in the link in the chat right now. It's in the video description. Go check out The Creation Dilemma. It's a short 73 book page that will teach you how to interact with those of the classical view on their conception of God and why us as Latter-day Saints see some issues there, and see why in chapter 8 why Latter-day Saint theology can keep a coherent, powerful, all-powerful, we even say, uh, all good God. And yeah, any last thoughts before we jump off?
Hey man, go buy the book, guys. It's good stuff. Good man. So I appreciate you for having us on, Aiden.
Yep. Appreciate it, brother.
All right.